Right. Thank you everyone for coming for the Hear from Peers today. We have Dr. Brent Garza. So he is with Mace Business School and work for accounting department for the past, I think, is it past year? He started to work with this LI bot. So today he will present about what it's all about, this LI bot. Hopefully this will be a one useful tool that we can utilize for helping us with uh, accessibility, digital accessibility. So, Brand, feel free to start your presentation.
All right, thanks a lot, Amanto. Yes, and thanks for letting me present this. Yeah, let's jump right in. Maybe we won't need the whole 45 minutes, but I'd love to get as much in as we can here. So the TAMU ally bot here is just that's just the short name. The A11, I guess that's how you say it. Ally A11Y is for accessibility, and so we all have to have the accessibility by April of next year. So there came along an opportunity where I was able to work with Armanto and Jamie to kind of say, well, could we, there's so much information out there, professors are kind of confused about what to do on it. So is there another helpful tool we could create that might help facilitate this? And so that's kind of what I've been working on. I'll give you a little bit of background on how I developed so you can have a little bit more comfort in using the tool. And then I was hoping to show a couple of examples of how you could use this tool to help update your course material for the upcoming accessibility stuff. We had this discussion the other day, actually, just on Friday. And will the accessibility be required? I think a number of us, for various reasons, are kind of wondering, is this something that we're going to have to do, and then at the last second, the rug gets pulled out from under us, and it's not required, and they brought up some good reasons, and I was kind of in that camp too. I was wondering myself, but there came up some good reasons the other day about why this will come through. Mainly, a couple of big ones are, as Carlos from the CT pointed out. One, this has become part of the ADA, and usually as part of the eight, once something's part of the ADA, it sticks pretty well. So it's unlikely that comes out. Two, and I think an even more convincing one is that there wasn't any money necessarily allocated for it. So where's the resources going to come to do this? Well, your time and my time. So I think if it doesn't cost anybody else anything else other than our time, they might be very willing to kind of move forward for it. And I'm a little less sure about. I think we talked about. Somebody mentioned that there might even be some additional state house legislation that might be kind of coming through along this same route. So it that gave me a lot more kind of likelihood that this will come through. So, okay, what are some ways that we can address this issue? Working on this bot, we've been working on this bot the last year or so. I'm going to give you access. I'm already going to let you kind of start playing with it here, but we originally started it with that Boodle box down there, and I don't know how many people at A&M have access to Boodle box. That might just be um, more for at Maze. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the chat here. Um, just, okay, I'm sorry, I don't know why. Can uh, can somebody send a chat message so that it'll pop up on my screen, and then I can share some links with you so that you can start playing with this. I don't know why it's not. There we go. There we go. Now it popped up. Thank you. All right. So here are some platforms that I put it on. So it's the same bot that we're using. You can kind of start to explore it. Um, it's the same bot we're using across platforms. Here is ChatGPT. Here is Perplexity, which we have access to now. Some people weren't aware of that, but we do have access to that at all of A&M has it, although I'm going to send you a link to where you can log in through it through the Maze link, but we all have access to it now. And so if you log in through your TAMU NetID account, you'll have access to the Pro account. And I actually kind of think that that's the one I like the most out of all these now to use for this. But ChatGPT, I put that together because I think a lot of people have have familiarity with that. And then Boodlebox, if you have it, then you'll have some additional access to it. And I'll tell you some pros and cons of each of these in a second. Giving just a little bit of background, I just want to get just a little bit of background as to what this is doing. All of these different platforms, this is Boodlebox's platform, this is ChatGPT's platform, this is Perplexity's platform. All of it is just different ways of putting together these bots that we can share. And it basically says, tell me, put together some instructions. I actually think Boodlebox has a pretty nice layout to see what's going on. Tell me some general instructions of what's going on. So these are the background instructions. And then as part of the knowledge, I can say in these instructions, I can add all the stuff I want. Here's what I'd like you to do. Here are the steps I'd like you to follow. And in this one specifically, I've used AI to help me scrape a bunch of websites that have the accessibility guidance that we need, including the final rule that we have to use. And so then I load all those up and I order them, and then I tell them to look in these documents starting here, starting with the final rule itself, the ultimate final rule. And so there's 159 documents that we've scraped across various platforms, and I've recently updated that. That fortunately also includes some ones that are specific to A&M, so that I have access to, that I can scrape and then I can include on here, that has access to A&M. So this is why this bot, we're just making the TAMU one specifically, since it has more TAMU specific information. I do have access, I can provide a bot more broadly, but we've taken some TAMU stuff out of that. So then I just load in all of the instructions, I load in all the knowledge thing, and it still has the access to go to the web and search if it needs additional context. But we try to get a lot of the information. It's like, here are the things that we're really abiding by. And then, I tell it to double check and then triple check that the sponsors rely with multiple sources so that we hopefully are getting the correct items here. It's the same setup in ChatGPT and Perplexity, just a little different here. Uh, Jamie would be remiss. We want to make very clear, while this is a very helpful tool, we want to make very clear that this is just a something we've developed to help you. And this message is set to pop up with every single prompt that goes through. So it'll pop up again and again. We're not saying that this is authoritative. We're not saying anything like this, but hopefully this could be a very helpful tool as you try and I know we all have a heavy lift coming up trying to remediate a bunch of our course material. So various ones, you're going to see this message, but we'll just, disclaim again that this is just a helpful tool. Um, some pros and cons that I just wanted to point out before I actually go in and show you how to use some of these items is that, so I have those three platforms. I've got those set up this weekend and I've mostly tested. The one I tested most is Boodlebox. That's the one we started with, but I've been testing these other two throughout the weekend and I think there's some pros and cons. ChatGPT, obviously more people are familiar with it. If you have, especially if you have a paid model already, a lot of people already have a paid subscription like I do, then you can use the more recent models without any sort of limitation or without, I mean, the limitation is very high. If you don't, the link I sent you to use the bot, you can sign up for a free account, but you will be limited to, I want to say like 10 messages before it limits. So if you have a ChatGPT account, I think this one works really well if you're familiar with ChatGPT. Perplexity, I've actually come to really like this one, especially for how I've been seeing it just generally perform. I think they're all performing pretty well, but I think Perplexity is particularly good so far. Everybody now has access to it, a pro account via TAMU. And one of the cons I'd say is the responses come back are a little bit shorter, so you might have to prompt it a little bit more often to kind of get some of the stuff back that you want. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. So other than that, I think Perplexity is kind of proving, I think maybe edging out a little bit. And then Boodlebox, if you have access to it, if you're comfortable with that, I have set it up so that everybody with a free account can have unlimited message with it. So that's the fortunate part about here. Even if you don't have the TAMU account, you could have unlimited messages with this. However, the trade-off there is it does come, the model that's set under that is a lower model, some of the previous models in AI. And I have noticed it does hallucinate a touch more than some of the other ones. So, you have to trade off the free messages for the lower model, but if you're comfortable with that. All right, so unless there are any kind of questions to start, I'll jump in and show a few use cases that I've started using it for and that I hope you can try for it. pull this up. Okay, so again, I think I'm edging a touch towards Perplexity now, actually, with how I've seen this play out a little bit. So I'm going to use Perplexity. I could use ChatGPT or any of the other ones. Feel free. But okay, so I'll use Perplexity. It's got all the documents up here. Here's the thing that everyone should see. So I have made this available on what's called a space. So if you're inside, I've even opened it up to the organization. I don't know, Armanto. I guess now everyone should have access to it if they log on. But if you have the link, that should give you access as well. So let me show you some of the things that I've done with this. So I'll just kind of, you can start out with something very simple. How do I remediate, uh, you know, PowerPoints for my class, right? I might just start out with a real simple question here. Kind of go through. So these are all of the documents, all those documents you had seen, the sources it looked through were all of these documents that we had looked up. And sometimes it'll even go out to the web, but I don't know if it did that time. But that's why we wanted to include all those documents, be like, here are the ones that we're comfortable with from our various sources. And then it said, all right, so here is some steps you can take to remediate your PowerPoints, reading order. It'll guide you through that. You can even see if you want to download the actual, I don't think it'll be very helpful to you, but you can see the underlying documents that we scraped. Um, and great. So there are some things that give some nice accessing. Okay, so you can do that for any of the questions you have. PDFs, how do I, what are the maybe this is a big one. What are the requirements for PDF files of articles I provide my class that are older and not accessible? Do I need to update them? And I'll tell you the answer. We'll double check here, but the answer is going to be yes. Even the older ones, unless there is a very specific criterion that they meet, you do have, yeah, this archival content, and basically you're not using it anymore. But if your class is still using it, basically the answer is yes, you must use it. So no automatic grandfathering. So things like this. So questions that you just have, we've put up a lot of stuff. We've even put in specific TAMU questions, and I'll show you that in a second. And we'll do that. All right, so here is just general questions you can ask, but I'd like to show you some additional ways that we could use this that I think are kind of interesting. So I'm going to show you, I'll start out with here. Let me make sure I got my documents. Okay, so the first question I have here is, if you can ask this without it. Now, if you're just a little bit more advanced in kind of the way you use it, you can actually ask for some HTML code to come through. And I'll show you why that's really helpful here in a second. So I'm actually going to say, I'm going to give it my old syllabus. I pulled a syllabus from a few years ago, 2022. So I'll drop that in there. You can drop it in there. And then I'm going to ask it to like review my old syllabus here. So please review my old syllabus attached, provide me with accessibility. You don't have to use HTML. You can just ask it to review it and tell me how I need to update, and I'll tell you. But I want to show you some pretty cool things that this bot can do on any other platforms that you choose to use it. So please review mine and apply very simple HTML formatting. So it'll go ahead and read that, and then just all right. So it's doing what I said, but it's also checking. It's saying, hey, so the cool part about these bots is that it has all of the underlying information. You could probably go to a bot, just a regular ChatGPT window without any sort of this information, and it'll start to look for it. But we put in a lot of this stuff, so it says, here's where we start. And so when you just ask questions, it knows a lot of the context of what you're already going for. And so then it knows that says, okay, you want me to change your syllabus here? I will update it. I'll put it in some HTML formatting for you, and I'll show you why that's helpful in a second. And I know the kind of things that it requires, making sure that it labels links, making sure that it has proper contrast between the text and the background. So it'll tell you these things, and you can do that yourself, or it can say, oh, okay, I know that's what I'm looking for. I can update that. And so I'll just go to say I'm just going to use a new page here. You don't have to do it this way. I just want to show you an example. So if this is like a syllabus page or any sort of page that you have on Canvas that you want to update. So the cool part here is if we take what it gave us, so it started giving me, it didn't do the whole syllabus. This is what oh, actually I did a little bit more. Okay, it stopped here. So this is what I'm saying, that you probably have to prompt it a few times to complete everything you need. You'd say, you stopped at a certain point, please complete it. But more importantly, I can say, all right, let me take this that it gave me. Let me take this information it gave me. I'm gonna copy it. It has a little copy button, or you can copy it as you're used to. And then just down here, we actually have the access to go into an editor here in Canvas. And a lot of the Canvas pages have that. The simple syllabus page has that, which has been proven, which is shown to be helpful when I've used it. And then I can just copy that information into the HTML and then close it. And then it has taken my old syllabus here. Let me pull this up. So, this a few years ago, I kind of used a template we had at Maze, put it in there, just kind of did stuff. I wasn't really paying attention to the headers as much. If they had some headers, I put it under there. But it went ahead and scraped all this and said, all right, let me put that into an accessible format for you. And so it does the proper headers underneath it. If you go look for it, it'll have the proper headers. It puts it in appropriate, it puts it into appropriate um, formatting for tables, links. A key part about links is that you're not just supposed to say click here or something like that. You have to label what the link is. It knew that. It went ahead and relabeled all my links to what they need to be, so on and so forth. Obviously, go through and check it. Sometimes it might cut off a couple things, but generally it's bringing most of the stuff I have in here, but go back and add some additional items. I know I have some more under exams and things like that. So you can iterate with it again. You can say you left off part of this. Please update this part of the HTML with this specific stuff that I would like. It'll do it, and then you can copy and paste again. So this is just a helpful way to do it. Or again, if you're uncomfortable with maybe the HTML, you can simply ask it for put in your syllabus and ask it what are some key parts that I need to update, and it'll list those out, and then it'll just manually go through and do those. So that's kind of one cool thing I want to show. I could do something. Any questions, I guess, as I go along the way? Any questions on kind of what I did there? Or all right, feel free to jump in as whenever if you have questions on that. So another thing that I was thinking about doing is if you already have, taking the same idea, if I already have, actually, let me go back. So I just made some copies of some old pages that need to be update accessible. Okay, so if I have like this page that I put together, so you might have put together a page in Canvas and said, hey, here are some things, here's some instructions I need to do. If you go into your edit, this will be when you start seeing these various tools that'll say, wait, let me check how accessible this is. Oh gosh, I got 10 items here that need to be addressed. Um, this link should have descriptive title, insufficient contrast, things like this. I think it also puts a little, it might place a little score elsewhere. But I say, okay, I put this together just in the regular formatting like I would when I'm typing here. I typed it out, I bolded some stuff, and it said, this isn't the greatest setup. I know you did it before, and I say, okay, I kind of like this. I don't want to spend too much time having to update this. I will go through and then have do it. I'm going to take advantage of that same issue. You can either copy and paste and just ask it the items you need to do, or I'm just going to say, hey, here is that background HTML, and I want to take that, and I want to, so I'm just going to highlight it all, copy and paste it, and then I want to take this back to this bot that we're working with um, and say, get rid of that, say, here are a couple things that I've started doing with it. I've said, hey, please update this HTML code to be fully accessible. And then I'll put that HTML code that we copied over. Sometimes I just put it in little quotes to help it, but it's very good at understanding what you're looking at. So then I just kind of place all that there. And then sometimes what I do just to make sure, just to be extra safe, do it if you'd like, do it if you don't. I kind of click on this little thing and I see these issues and I'm like, oh gosh, okay. I just go ahead and I copy those too. And I say, hey, let me copy these, take this over to the bot and say, here's some issues that Canvas flagged. And then I'll just kind of say, all right, here are those issues, copy and paste that, puts all of them. I didn't even say where it was, but I just said, here's some things I need you to start looking for. And I'll go ahead and send that over. It'll process behind. We'll wait here a second. It'll give us some background and I'll show you how I place it right back in and see if it improves that um, accessibility score. While we, okay, all right, so good. All right, so it's telling me some of the issues, right? Fully accessible, here are some color contrast issues. You needed to update your links, which is what it told me. Alternative text. Oh yeah, I have some images in there that I don't have alternative text for. And so I'll say, okay, list structure that was unordered. Okay, so I could do all of that myself, or I can just kind of take this new code that it gives me. I'm gonna take that HTML code and just plop that over here. Again, I'm just turning it on and off of this little button that's always kind of been there that might be helpful. Paste that in there and then close it out. So it's changed some of the stuff. I need to save and get back in here. Let me just do that real quick. All right. And then I want to check, let's see here, accessibility checker. No accessibility issues were detected, right? So it took care of a lot of that. And even if I go into some of the stuff I didn't even realize I would do until I was playing around with it some, I'd say, hey, okay, this image thing, I know I need to have some alternative text. You told me that, but you don't see the image, right? Actually, it does, right? I didn't know that it had access to some of those, but it can read the web link and go ahead and look at that image and say, here is this screenshot showing the share button in a daily review tool. Use this link to get your shareable link. And then I'm just showing them how to share something with me that I want to see. It does the same thing here too. Screenshot highlighting the open link feature after clicking the share button. And so it just takes it puts in the alternative text for me. So that's why now I have full accessibility with this. Taking exactly what I had from a prior year, saying it in there, putting it in, save it. Now I've updated, probably update a few more items. Again, always check. We want to be clear. Still, it's still your responsibility. If it leaves something out, occasionally I'll notice that like on a table or something, it'll leave a blank space. That's not excessive. Technically, you're supposed to have something in every spot. So check these things, but it's gonna, I feel pretty confident it's gonna get you 95% of the way there in a pretty quick amount of time, right? Um,
Hi, Brent.
yeah,
Can I ask a question? It's really cool. That reminds me I should do more things with pages in Canvas. But my question is that in some other case, we just do certain things in Word outside and produce PDF, put in Canvas. Then of course we use PowerPoint a lot. Do you
mhm,
can this tool be used for some other applications like Word and PowerPoint?
perfect. So right into the next thing. Okay, I have some of that. It does better. So let's start looking at that. The main one I have is PowerPoint that I'll show you. I will say for any of the Microsoft documents and stuff like that, it does have a little bit harder time reading some of it. So I wouldn't say, I think that's batting more like a 70 to 80, but it can read in the files and at least give you some ideas of what need to be changed. And so I'll show you that right here. So um, let me pull up some old slides that I had that I need to update here. Um, so these are just a bunch of slides. So, how many, I've updated these over the years, hidden slides, move slides around. I'm sure we've all kind of done that. I have a bunch of slides in here. I can drop it in. So I will just drop that file in here and say, uh, please let me know how to update these PowerPoints, the attached PowerPoints for accessibility. And it's going to look at it. I'll probably tell you what's going to happen here. It's going to get a little overwhelmed about how large that file is and kind of just say like, okay, I've looked at it. It's reading it. It can get some background on it, but it's just going to say, all right, it's going to go through and give some general ideas about how we should update these PowerPoints. And okay, so great. use accessible layouts, alternative text for images. We know all this, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So great. It's starting to go through and it's giving one, it looked at some of the issues that I had and then also gave me some, right. It's reading some of the information. But it's basically giving me a bunch of tasks to do. All right, if I want to do it a little bit more, I would say, yes, this is what you're going to have to generally do for all of your slides. But if there are just like, a couple slides that you're having a really hard time with, oh, darn, where did I do this? Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. So I just kind of took a couple of slides and just said, let's say these were a couple of slides out of that deck that I'm having some issues with. And I say, okay, what I did is I said, let me just put one or two or maybe three slides into another PowerPoint that's giving me some issues. And I need a little bit more help specifically doing these. And if I can limit down the number of slides that it has to look at, it is better about giving that. So I'll drop this in here and I'll say, please review the 2 slides in this file and give me specific ways to update the content on those slides. And again, it's any of these Microsoft files, it's going to have a little bit harder time kind of reading. It's kind of used to reading like just plain text files and stuff like that, but it can read it and it'll go through it. But if I kind of limit it to how much I'm requiring it to do, then hopefully, let's hope it doesn't, but it was able to give me much more specific ones. Yeah. So then it says, hey, all right, so then it's giving me some very specific ideas on what to do. Here's what you should label your second slide. Here is the formatting that you can use, remove the underscores and spacing. So it can give me a little bit more specifics on slides I might be having some issues with. If there's a lot of content on it, it might suggest like a table format instead of pictures. I know what I've had to do is a lot of stuff that I have is very visual in which it like has arrows pointing places and I want to bring students attention to various points. Well, that's not accessible because that's just pictures, and accessibility is not just a visual thing. So then it suggested ways that it could be put into like a table that would read it a little bit easier. So if I'm looking at just a couple of slides, this can give me some much more specific things. Here's the outline that it wants to do, so on and so forth. I'll still have to work with it. Again, these Microsoft programs, it's going to be a little bit harder with. But if you can limit down how much it's having to eat up on each one of them, I think it can help you a little bit more. Same thing with Word documents. So that's what I would say about kind of those items. I don't know if Armanto, you have any, I mean, obviously we have tools inside PowerPoint and inside Word that are specifically set up to do that. But if you want to try and have the bot help you with some of this, this can give you a little bit more detail. Armanto, are there any tools that specifically read like that can better read the Word documents other than like the panorama that we have?
For remediation, no, we don't
Yeah.
have other things. But if you have Microsoft 365 Copilot, probably you can integrate Copilot to read your Word documents immediately.
Ah, good point. I haven't used Word because I can't put a bot together with that one. They took that up, but yes, excellent point. I don't have the Copilot one, but so those are some things I've done with that. There were a couple other things that I'll quickly show y'all. So something that's big. So this will tell you need alternative text and stuff like that. If you can just like copy and paste your text. So I have lots of images throughout my slides. So for example, I'll bring up a couple that I have. Oh, no, wrong. Right. So I have this kind of chart that I show my students to try and explain the difference between these related topics. Um, another one I have here is a graph that's saying like here is how some research that shows how businesses behave in certain situations, and then even something like this. This is something I've gotten from the book that I'll include in my slides. It had a nice table in the book, so I wanted a copy of that, but that's not accessible, right? So any of these, so what I would do for any of these is I would just take that image and you can drop those images into any one of them. So I'll drop this one that has the circles inside of it, and I'll say, please provide you can do it short, long, a detailed alternative text that I can use for this attached image. Obviously, it'll read it. It actually does a very good job of reading these files and putting it together. Obviously, read through it, but it gives you a very nice, right, diagram. What is auditing? It shows 3 nested circles, tells it that it covers one is greater than the other. It even says, it reads the call outs that it knows that it's referring to. This call out is, this arrow that I had is referring to a specific area, and it says, oh, here's what they are referring to in that. So it's really good about giving some alternative text. Copy and paste that into the alternative text inside your document. It has a little box that you have to put in there, and then check. I think the rest of it you can mark as decorative for your class, and you can still have the picture up there. So my understanding, the picture is still fine so long as there is good alternative text. I would caution that I've used my bot to ask what the standards say about having too much alternative text. It does say, be cautious. If your entire class is pictures and all you have is alternative text, then you might not be meeting kind of the spirit that they want of the law to say, is it a generally equal experience between individuals? So, I would use it, be a little bit careful about that. Nonetheless, it provides very good structure. If somebody can read through it, a screen reader can read through these alternative texts, and a student can understand what's going on. So a couple of caveats there I'll put out. And then, so I've done that with images. We did that with the slides. Oh, up here, if you didn't like something we just quickly skipped over when we were dealing with this page here that it updated. I told you it automatically did the alternative text, which I just think is amazing. Generally, I like shorter ones, but I would say maybe it could be a little bit more helpful to increase this alternative text. All I would go back and say, hey, thank you for updating that HTML. Could you go back and increase the alternative text for each of the images to make them more detailed? And then it went through, added it back. I put that, just copied and pasted all that HTML back in here, and it does everything it needs to itself, right? And so I updated this to make these a bit more specific, to be like, oh, I want them to go to that corner box to click this thing. Here's where you paste it into this, copy the link and paste it into where I need them submitted it on Canvas. And so I just want to point out that you can just reiterate with it. You don't have to stop once, say, I want a little bit more, or I'd like you to change this. And it's great about doing that, just like we've become used to with these bots. And then the last thing I'll kind of say, and we'll see if there are any questions. Coming back. All right. Hopefully we'll see. This one's going to test me a little bit here, but I say, oh man, this is a lot. What are some of the TAMU help desk hours for accessibility remediation? So let's hope this generally has worked. Let's watch this be one of the times it throws off. Again, we trained it on lots of documents, and I've even put some web pages, some specific web pages behind it, including the TAMU web pages that say, when you go to the web, please look at these specific pages unless you really can't find what you need. So it starts there. Let's see if it does it. Oh, it looks like we got it. All right. So it even has some additional information about what we have here at TAMU. So that's why we call this the TAMU one. I have a more generalized accessibility one that strips out this TAMU stuff, but you can go talk to Jamie. That's correct. You can talk to Carlos. I think all this looks pretty correct. Even the dates and times, I think, Armanto, right? And so if you want to ask specific questions about TAMU, it has information to try and give you that answers, always with the caveat, make sure that you double check this stuff yourself. So that's kind of the pot we put together. Same thing happens in ChatGPT if you want to use it that way. Same thing happens in BoodleBots. Again, I noticed that some of the things, especially with like questions more specific like this for BoodleBox, it would start to go off a little bit more because it's not using as new a model. It's kind of an older model. So, but that's just kind of the trade-off to get an unlimited number of prompts. But for the number of prompts that we have Perplexity, since we all have access to it, unlimited prompts. The model that it's using is pretty darn good. I don't know, I'm kind of leaning this way now out of all the ones that I've tested. And I will say, I think that's everything. Questions?
The only information on this page is about the Panorama call center. I don't think that will.
Oh, the Panorama one? Yeah, if
Yeah.
that's the correct, is digital questions. Yeah, again.
Yeah, but the email is correct. So like the digital accessibility at tamu.edu, that's correct. The schedule is correct, but the call center, I don't think this will work.
Okay, maybe that pulled that from the Panorama ones itself, because I know I have some specific Panorama
Yeah.
games. But this was the one that was giving me some issues occasionally, but now I would say, 9 times out of 10, it's getting the correct layout here and saying, here is the correct time. So that's what I was trying to get it to work in. And so there we go. Yeah, that's,
All right.
I guess that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Brent. Any questions? I will stop the recording now.
All right.